I think that is one that we all feel, because the moment you up level, your surroundings either level up with you or you lose them. The feminine, the beingness, these are the emotional limitations, fear-based beliefs. I have brought, let me see, 55 to choose from. Don't try to write them all down, just write the ones down where you feel like, yep, that's me. I think there will be 3 to 7 of a total where we realize, oh, wow, yes, this is exactly how I'm holding myself back. I'm going to take you straight into the fear-based belief. There's not much prep because this 55 is plenty. And I want all of us to just make notes. Where do we feel, does this land in my body? Or maybe you know, oh, this is what my sister does, or this is what my kid does, or this is what my partner, my business partner, this one long-term friend does. This is where the fear sits. And our job is obviously to examine this and integrate it. But I got the information talking to my agent. I realized I found a belief within me. And then I thought, hang on, I know this one, which is new. And I know a typical 7 or 8 others, but I'm pretty sure there's many more. And I asked my agent, from everything you know about me and everything you know about my friends and everything you know about the world, as you can poke through the internet, how many can you come up with? And it was a much bigger list, and said, cluster this. This is too fragmented. And it clustered it down to 55. So this is how I got to find them. I gave it some angles, how to research this, obviously, and also the language based on the master prompt that's in the backend, how to actually name this so it will resonate with us, and it comes from a very integrated point of view. And I'm going to start right now, because otherwise we'll never make it. The first fear is that abundance will corrupt me. I never thought I had that until I realized that I don't dare to speak so much about fast cars anymore, because I feel like I know a car is kind of ruining the planet. Am I still allowed to have it? Is this corrupting me? So that would be my angle about how I found that fear actually being slightly active in me. And lots of people have that they feel like if they're wealthier, if they're more successful, they're automatically privy to corruption, to manipulation, to sugarcoating things, so they will be more acceptable. I had that conversation with a friend of mine days ago. I asked her, why do you not name it? And she said, because it's more relatable like that. And I was like, yeah, but it's not true. Why would you dumb it down? But this is basically the fear that we're scared that we're being not relatable. And from that, I immediately make the fear that this is corrupting me. So there's 2 different fears playing in that scenario. The next fear is that I will be responsible for too much, very active in me. And how can I structure my wealth in a way that is not making me tired? The fear is I don't want to grow into more wealth, into more abundance, because I'm going to be responsible for people, for land, for structure. Will I lose the overview? Will this become too complex, etc.? Third fear, visibility brings attack. I had that very strongly for a while. If I step out of there, will people actually like what I do? And if not, what happens? And every one of us who is wanting to be of impact eventually stumbles over that. Might be an imposter thing, might be a validation thing, the longing to belong, the longing to be loved. All of that plays into the moment we step more into the light, we might get challenging feedback. And to be able to be with that, to hold that, and to not let you shy back from doing it anyways. I've heard that the moment you step onto any platform, it doesn't matter if it's LinkedIn or Instagram or X or whatever, YouTube, that you will have to make sure that you don't stop even if you don't get likes. And for a long time. Because there might be things slowing down. There might be phases where you get a lot and then you get nothing. Then the algorithm might like you or not like you, depending on how you phrase yourself. And the algorithm is serving masses. All of us here are not relatable to masses. So the algorithm is not going to say, oh my God, fantastic. The algorithm might say, that's curious. Let's try this out. But we are not the ones who go into contrast, revolution, and loud clickbaity stuff, which the algorithm loves. So we will have to deal with that. So visibility might not bring attack from people, but it might not bring us love from the algorithm, for example. Next fear, success might mean I cannot rest anymore. That's very true if we have a structure that depends on our presence. I don't think I have to add much to that. Very clear. The fear that success means betraying spiritual values. That's a little bit like the corruption piece. Very related. I'm not going to add more because those two are, yeah, related. Fear receiving means exploiting people in regards to money or love. As in, if I ask for more, it might cost them. Literally, or in presence, or in attention, or in we're asking for too much, basically. That's the fear behind it. And that makes us not asking for more. And it also makes us not asking for help. The fear to be treated well means I must perform perfectly. That one. The lingering fear is that I can't make a single mistake. And that makes me, of course, overperform and tires me out. And the moment I'm tired, I'm not in abundance, obviously. The fear that the other side might be disappointed. That might be a fear that holds you back from asking or from doing it, from upgrading yourself, basically, from stepping into more success, more abundance, more like you doing it in a way that actually it also nourishes you, or into something that serves a lot of people, but one or two might not be happy. So you can't please everybody. That might hold us back. The fear that one mistake cancels all trust, that's very related to me overperforming, like I mentioned earlier. And, you know, that trust is being built in difficulty. The fear that I will be punished for wanting more. Very simple. People might leave, people might mark me down, etc., etc. All kinds of symptoms can come of that. The fear that I will outgrow my family or tribe. I think that is one that we all feel, because the moment you up level, your surroundings either level up with you or you lose them. And especially if you level up a lot, and the thing is that everybody who's present here usually does that, because this is why we're together, because we level up a lot and we're constantly doing this. And people are, how do I say this? People are irritated by the amount of up-leveling. You get to hear things like, aren't you ever satisfied? I've heard that so often. I was like, this has nothing to do with me not being satisfied. And no, I'm not. The planet is dying. I'm not satisfied with that, but I am happy that I get to contribute. My satisfaction comes from contribution, not from sitting back and relaxing. That doesn't mean I don't sit back and relax, but the amount of sitting back and relaxing that other people do, it's not comfortable for me. I'd rather surrender to what wants to come through me. That makes me relaxed. But we might outgrow people, family, tribe. longing for new ones. The next is the fear that people will envy, hate, or leave us. It's very much of a harsher version of outgrowing. The fear that we become visible, that when we become visible to unsafe systems. I had this in existing jobs when I was working with systems, with corporations. And I knew that if I speak up and shift the room into more integrated, into more abundant, people who are in there, especially men, not always, but rather, are going to exploit me. They are using me as a battery. That was a fear for a long time. The fear that success means I must become more masculine, tougher. Very obvious. Fear of success means I lose my innocence. That goes with the manipulation, corruptions thing again. The fear that wealth means losing artistic or spiritual freedom. I'm not sure how to translate this personal, current freedom, abundance of just being able to like download what wants to come through me. And how do I then how do I not lose that when I step back into my everyday? And fear that wanting to create more abundance is kind of hindering the other kind of abundance. The fear that structure will imprison me. I had that a lot when people want to share, like want to have a look at my calendar and mark themselves in that, and then they shift things around, and I'm like, you don't get to tell me when I show up where. I decide that. I'm really not happy with somebody structuring my time for me. I need to do this myself. I can't automate it. There is a fear behind that. And that fear is very obvious. It's I don't like to fracture my days. I don't like to jump in topics, and in the kind of work I do, I like to be very present with what's currently going on. And everything else is still in the background, but I like to focus. I like deep work, you know, the term deep work as in focusing on something fully and creating something very valuable takes a cluster of time that's uninterrupted. Fear that selling means manipulating. Sometimes I have that on LinkedIn when I write to someone. And of course, most of my conversation on LinkedIn is to be more to contribute. But meaning to contribute means getting people into containers that I offer, because otherwise I'm all over the place and I'm depleting myself if I don't eventually get energy exchange in the sense of money. And sometimes I'm like, if I write to this person now, is it obvious that I want to sell? And will they think she's just trying to sell me something? Although I find that this person is fantastic. I love her profile. That would be such a great addition to that container. She would love it. Everybody would love it. I'm scared that this might get misunderstood. The fear that receiving means owing. So if I get something from you, I have to give back. The transactional thing, something I really don't like. The moment somebody comes at that with me, where I feel like there's a math behind that. If people have that, I'm usually out. And that is not, in my sense, I feel it's a healthy fear. It's a proper red flag if somebody's fully transactional. But it might also be an unhealthy fear, as in I'm not ever allowed to take anything because then I have to immediately give back. That's what's meant here. The fear that people only value me if I overgive, if I always have to go the extra mile, has a little bit something to do with the perfection piece. Although I sense the perfection piece more in the everything has to be perfect, not everything has to be extra much. For me, that's a little bit of a different flavor, but it's the same cluster of fears. The fear that if I ask clearly, people will disappear. Well, if you know my story, you know why that fear is having me sometimes. The fear that my work is too subtle to be valued. Very good for all of us who sense a lot. how do we translate that into something that's tangible so people understand, they grasp the value? Fear that my gifts are natural, so I shouldn't charge much. I think everybody has thought about that eventually, especially if it comes natural. We should charge because that means it doesn't deplete us. You know, the whole love for performance thing is basically making us devalue our virtues instead of us understanding, oh, this is how I'm best at making anything valuable for myself, because it nourishes me too, because it comes easy. The fear that money requires consistency I cannot sustain. Sometimes we just feel overwhelmed with having to be present all the time. It's the same overwhelm that comes from having children. The consistency of having to be present is only then easing up for us if we create structures where we are actually having automated income, automated wealth, passive income, all of these things. That means we don't have to be so consistent anymore. The fear that wealth will expose our lack of discipline. Somebody said to me a week ago, I'm happy that I didn't inherit that money because it would have made me lazy. And I was like, I would have taken it anyways and decided to not become lazy. You know, there's a fear of pushing abundance away, the lack of discipline. Then the fear that I don't know how to steward large amounts. If you suddenly come into large amounts, where do I allocate them? How do I handle that responsibly? Especially if the large amounts are much larger than the ones I'm used to handling every day. Talk about the fear that I'll be judged for having more than others. I know that fear very well. Sometimes I don't wear a lot of jewelry when I go to certain places because I'm like, this is not the place. People will not like that, even though I love that piece and it would make me feel abundant and beautiful and lush. I don't do it. Taking the smaller earrings, pretty much that. The fear to become isolated at a higher level, everybody knows that. Everybody in leadership knows that. The fear that I have to say no more often. I had that, I don't have it anymore. It feels very good if you're just like, you know what? Nope. Or to quote a dear friend of mine, his famous words, I'd rather not. Very British. The fear that I have to stop rescuing people. Well, eventually we can't rescue people anymore. And if we have the rescuing piece going strong within us, we understand that the larger the team, the less we can rescue. The fear that I have to become very clear. Yaha, we have to. If you have a lot of impact, we have to have a lot of clarity. The fear that I have to choose one path and close others. Yes, that's another thing. If we decide to go down one road, we can't keep traipsing around the others. The fear that success will make my life too big. That's, again, a little bit to do with responsibility and complexity also. The fear that income means more taxes, admin, and responsibility. That's like a detail of the responsibility part. Also very related, fear making money means entering dirty systems. I have a lot of people who offer me like counter business, you know, let's not do bill, like let's just deduct that. The moment you have that, you're muddy. And I'm just not doing it. That's not a fear of me, it's just a clear no. Fear I will be used once people know I have money. We know that. The moment we have something, people are like, can I have a piece of that? We know it from kindergarten. When you had the best toys, everybody wanted to play with that. What experiences we made then in that situation is going to influence our behavior now, obviously. The fear that I have to protect myself more. Solid. I relate to that. The fear that money will make me less lovable. That's a facet of longing to belong. In the family, if, for example, especially money and this kind of abundance, is something that people consider as dirty, you will be considered less lovable. The fear that abundance, and that's a paradox, isn't it, will make me less feminine. For all those who know the core, they know that abundance is literally the integrated stage of the creative feminine, of the holding feminine. Excuse me. Excuse me. No, excuse me. Please don't exclude me. Exclude me. The fear that ease is unsafe. I find that is related to the laziness bit. If I relax, will I then, if I make a mistake, well then, etc., etc. The fear that I need pressure to create. A little bit like that fear I must stay close to urgency to stay alive. Fear that enough will make me lose my edge. That's all the same in the sense of laziness, in the sense of am I then still creative? That's one big cluster here. Fear that life only provides at the last second. That's one of mine. That's one of the strong ones that I have. That when it's really about abundance, it's coming, but in the last second. I don't know why. I'm pondering this. The fear that I must earn love through usefulness, love for performance. We don't need to explain that. Fear that I must, Fear that being resourced means I no longer have an excuse not to rise. Ha ha. The moment it's there, why are you not doing it? I'm not using my privilege. The moment I become privileged, I actually should contribute. What if that's weird to me? What if I'm at the same time scared of visibility? But the moment I'm abundant and I'm not using the privilege, how do I handle that? The fear that power requires cleaner boundaries that I'm ready to hold. Fear I will be seen as arrogant if I own my value. Very relatable in the German-speaking countries. Fear that I will have to disappoint people with my prices. I have that sometimes. Fear I will become the provider for everyone again. Very solid. Fear wealth will pull dependence towards me. So if I'm used to be the one who is creating a certain level of abundance, that people kind of want to use me as a battery. The fear that I cannot hold money without leaking it through emergencies. And the fear that I'm only safe when I stay small enough to be overlooked. The visibility thing again. So that was 55.